Hey guys, it's Roscoe, and on the Space Couch today, we're joined by the Grand Admiral because I'm going to be reviewing this. Thrawn, Treason by Timothy Zahn. Thoroughly enjoyed this. As good as the others. A real credit to the Grand Admiral, of course. So it's bookended by things that happen in Rebels. It starts off with the scene that we see in Rebels between Tarkin and Thrawn, basically saying that Krennic is trying to get the funding for the Defender program for Project Stardust. He has to come and present his argument in person if he wants to save the funding. So he goes off to this meeting, like Thrawn is there and Krennic is there. Who else? Tarkin is there, and Grand Admiral Savitt, who is another Grand Admiral. He is also there. And basically they come to an agreement that the Director Krennic is having problems with his supply lines. They're being attacked by Grallochs at one of the staging areas, and Gralloch is like a large Minoc that feeds on like gases and all that sort of thing. And it's causing disruption to the schedules, which they can't afford any more delays on that project. So basically, the wager is if Grand Admiral Thrawn can solve this problem within 1 week, he gets to keep his TIE Defender funding. If he fails, the funding goes to Project Stardust. But of course there's more to it than that. You know, it's not going to be so simple. If it was just that, Thrawn would have it solved very easily. But it turns out the Grisk are hovering around. They're infiltrating the Empire, probing weaknesses, that sort of thing. And the Chiss are also in the Empire. This is Admiral Aralani, who we saw at the end of the first Thrawn novel when Eli Vanto went to the Chiss Ascendancy. And he is with her also, and they are basically trying to follow the Chiss, see what they're up to, all that sort of thing. And Thrawn Star Destroyer basically stumbles into their operation. And so they have to essentially work together to neutralise this threat. And the Grisk are quite an impressive threat. I mean, we don't really see that much of them. There is like a description of them, but it was a bit nondescript, shall we say. But what it says about them is that 3 Grisk can control an entire nation. 100 Grisk can control an entire planet. They're good at finding weaknesses, getting people to be subservient to them. I'm not quite sure how they manage it, but I assume that will be explained in due course in other parts of the canon. But yes, the Grisk are a fascinating species, and I'm sure we will see more about it. So basically, they've got to defeat the Grisk. As it's Thrawn, it gets very convoluted and complicated, and all of his talents come into play. But I thoroughly enjoy all of that. And it's interesting because they introduce another character, Krennic's subordinate. He's called Assistant Director Ronan. Dresses very similarly with that uniform and the cape, but a shorter one. And he very much is like Krennic in his attitudes. He thinks Krennic is just amazing, the best thing ever. Only he is really truly sacrificing for the Empire. All the others just have their positions due to family connections. All the usual things. But he does eventually come to see that Thrawn does have a use, and he is highly intelligent because the other Grand Admiral is involved in these. He helped set up basically these Gralloch attacks, but it's all a ruse. So some of the ships who get like partially drained by these Grallochs, they'll jump into hyperspace, but they'll come out short of where they were supposed to be going, and then they can be intercepted and their cargo's taken. And they'll think, oh, a ship was lost in hyperspace. Oh, occasionally a pirate might pick up one by accident, but it's not by accident, and it's not pirates, and it's not been left lost in hyperspace. He's basically diverting resources from Stardust for his own ends. That's not a good idea in the Empire once Thrawn finds out about it. So there is an Imperial on Imperial battle, which, I mean, no prizes for guessing who has the upper hand in that one. I won't go into the specifics because it's interesting to read how it all unfolds. But it's a great book. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And Eli Vanto is back and plays a major role in it, but from the Chiss side rather than rejoining the Empire. So at the end, once Thrawn has basically has solved the Gralloch problem, but not in the timed period. So he does lose the TIE Defender funding. But Tarkin says, once Stardust is up and running, I will make sure to the Emperor that your funding basically gets reinstated, and we can have both, and all of that. And it ends the book with Thrawn and Palpatine having an audience. And it's basically Palpatine is telling Thrawn to build that chamber that we see on the Star Destroyer in the series finale of Rebels, you know, the part of the Lothal Temple and all of that. And then he says, and then once the problem on Lothal has been solved, you'll return to Coruscant, where we'll have a long, long talk. And that is literally the last line of it. Obviously, that talk never happens, and it'll be fascinating to know, because Palpatine, he doesn't know if he can trust Thrawn, really. Well, I mean, if he thought he could trust him, he would have him killed or removed. But he wonders where his loyalties lie. Maybe he can use Thrawn to against the Chiss Ascendancy in their battle with the Grisk, and he can come out on top, ruling both the Chiss and the Empire, defeating the Grisk. Well, he was never short on ambition, was old Palpatine, was he? So that's basically is what happens in the book. Like I said, from that it is left wide open, as Thrawn's ending was left wide open in Rebels. They will get around to it in due course, I have no doubt. Maybe it'll be something that gets explored in a TV show, or a book, or a graphic novel, or whatever. But there's no new information on what happens to Thrawn. It ends where he comes back into Rebels. And so we'll just have to wait and see what Thrawn's ultimate fate is. But there are many threads left dangling. The threat of the Grisk, just as the Empire is about to start collapsing. It's very convenient for the Grisk, and they wonder in the book if the Grisk are perhaps also infiltrating the rebellion to help divide the Empire to make it easier for them to conquer. It's fascinating stuff. Things you'd never considered previously. That may not get picked up in other parts, but were very interesting ideas that I thoroughly enjoyed. But yes, that is what I thought of Thrawn Treason. Fantastic conclusion to the trilogy. Who knows if we'll get more? Like I said, I really hope that we do. Because it is an open-ended trilogy, there is no conclusion to his character. And he is needed back in the Chiss Ascendancy. So maybe when Ezra jumps the ship with the Purrgil with Thrawn on board, they end up there. They will end up there eventually, I think. Because they do have those Force sensitives in the Chiss Empire. The navigators. And they mentioned a couple of interesting concepts. Second sight, which is basically how they can guide the ships through hyperspace without the use of droids. And third sight, which is basically they can, it's not so much reading someone's mind as intertwining your mind with theirs and learning all the things that they know that way. Fascinating concept. And it's the third sight that dies out amongst the navigators at an early age. But one of them, Vanya, who's in the story, she's a lot older and she still has that third sight. So Arulani has tasked Eli Vanto to finding out how. But it's all through the use of statistics and spreadsheets and all that sort of thing. And that doesn't have an answer either at the end. But they're hopeful that his work in analysis will help them find new navigators and also to explain how or if those abilities can be extended. But like I said, fascinating book. So many great things in there. Death Troopers are in there. What else is in there? Cybisti is in there. Like I said, Ezra Bridger and Kanan Jarrus and Lothal, they all get mentioned. So does Hera. But we should just have to wait and see how it all unfolds eventually. But for now, guys, that is just my review of Thrawn Treason. It was absolutely fantastic, and you would expect no less. Please subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this content. Leave me a comment or suggestion for a upcoming topic you'd like to see discussed. Or like the video.